The engineering and construction sector is worth more than $10 trillion a year. And while construction companies are increasingly sophisticated, the industry remains largely under-digitized. nPlan has the largest construction data set on the market and is using it to modernize the sector. We've all experienced significant delays renovating our home, over budget, over time. Imagine that on a 1,000-time scale with a big infrastructure project. Dev, how is nPlan solving this challenge for big infrastructure projects?
We solve it by forecasting how long a project is probably going to take. And we do that by reading and understanding data on how previous or past construction projects performed. We have access and have now processed data from over 500,000 projects from around the world. We saw what was planned, what actually happened to all those projects. Then using that, you can build a realistic view of how long a project is probably going to take, what might go wrong with it, and what opportunities there are to improve it as well.
What are some of the big improvements that the nPlan solution brings to a typical project?
The kinds of improvements that we bring are we increase the team's awareness of what they didn't know, the unknown unknowns. A project team will often come forward with 3 biases. The availability bias, they only know what they know. Recency bias, they kind of only really remember the last few things that have happened in their experiences. And then the one that I love, which is optimism bias, the thing that drives humanity forward.
Oh, I believe we can do this in this time,
We'll get
even
it
though
done.
it's totally not
We'll
realistic.
get it done. And what we help them with is to give them a sense of reality. Like, hey, these are the kinds of risks that you have in front of you, and here's what you might not have thought about.
In terms of time and cost.
In terms of time and cost. But of course, if your project takes
And quality.
longer and you make mistakes along the way, it will cost more, right? So nPlan helps with the framing of time, which is highly correlated to cost. There is not a contractor in the world that I have come across that does not experience this problem. Just like how we both know that delays are occurring on construction projects, you don't have to look very far to find one. The people that are building it are experiencing these delays, but more tangibly, construction companies, they're facing a dire situation on their balance sheets. There is risk on the balance sheet, meaning they're taking on projects to which they don't fully know how much risk they're taking in delivery, right? They don't know what the outcome is going to be, or they don't have enough confidence of that outcome. And so that means they have an order book of projects with an unquantified amount of risk, which leads to volatility. So the markets in the US, in the UK, in Canada, and Australia largely look at construction companies in a fairly negative light,
Right.
because of that volatility, right? So they urgently need to find a way to reduce the volatility, demonstrate to investors that they've got confidence and certainty of their ability to deliver that order book.
And isn't nPlan attractive to big insurance companies that are insuring these projects as well?
We are starting to work in the insurance space ourselves to be able to offer our product to be able to insure the outcomes of construction projects, basically against a disastrous delay that could create a huge financial loss for the parties involved in the execution.
So you actually will underwrite, because you can actually predict where the problems will be and what those costs could be, you can successfully underwrite.
This is still work in progress for us, so we cannot yet underwrite anything. But it is something that we are aspiring towards and actively working towards now.
Well, I think it's like a logical extension of what you've
Correct.
built already, because you've got so much visibility to what's probably going to happen on these projects. In terms of metrics, how much money and or time, or both, are you saving on a typical project?
The approximate terms that we see across all of our clients and all of our projects is between 1% and 5% of the total project cost. And 5% of several billion is,
Very significant.
significant sum.